Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. And we're looking out at the greenhouse out there, and the winds have been gusting all day today. They're down to about 20 miles per hour now, but I did see 24 for a while, and that was pretty much sustained. It wasn't gusts; it was just right at 24 miles per hour. Well, without any added screws or washers or anything in the greenhouse so far, it's withstood 24 miles per hour without any damages. So that's a kind of a good feeling. Now, remember, the location that I chose for that puts the totes and the garden house, the Garden of Eden, is actually a windbreak from the angle that the winds come. And they will hit the roof of that thing over the top of the Garden of Eden, but that they hit that and it slopes it right off. Now, I've got the vents open because they seemed a little flimsy. I wanted to see how they were going to hold up in wind. Well, they held up pretty darn good. I mean, they wobbled back and forth a little bit, but the air blew right on through from one to the other and absorbed the shock of it all. The next time the winds come up, I'll close them and see how they hold up with the units closed. So anyway, I wanted to cover that, and let me stop right there and say, okay, some of you have been asking me questions, so pause this right now. Get yourself a pen and a paper because I've got some information you might want to jot down, and that'll save you from going back through it again a second time or scrambling around going, oh, no, where's my paper or where's my pencil? It's information from people who have asked questions. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to start walking over to the water tank because I do have to answer a question for Jen about the bilge pump setup over there. And in order to do that, I want to be up there to do it. And then we'll come back here as the last thing because I have some information on the mister system for Ann Bear. Thinking that she'd like to have one of those out on her porch for her cats. So I do have the information on that. So get your pens and paper ready and we'll move on down the line. Now, just in case you do have your pens and paper ready, let's stop at the table on the way out of here, and I'll show you the initial on the box here. We'll start here and come back here. Okay, so this is it. Misty Mate. Drops the air temperature by 30 degrees. And you can connect two together. Now, I looked these guys up on the internet, and they apparently don't make this number 6 size anymore. They've got the next size up, but they're not cheap. And if you look below in the comment section of the video I did last on these things talking about it, somebody put a link down there for Home Depot. Home Depot sells a misting set for about 20 bucks. And it's a little bit bigger than this one. So you might want to go that way. But just in case, here we go. Keeping Cool, model 15006. And there's the information on it. Okay, and they're manufactured in China, but they come out of Tempe, Arizona. Go figure. All right, so we got that one down. Now, while I'm walking up to the water tank, I'm going to ask a few of you a favor out there, and you can leave your response in the comment section below. But you remember I was talking about my Concord grapevines that never took. Well, the other grapevines I bought did. They have no problem. I actually have grapes on there, and I've been eating grapes off of there as I walk through the greenhouse, and they're delicious. And But the Concord grapes, now for 2 years straight, last year I bought one, and then this year in the spring I bought two. Last year I just threw it away because it never took and I just forgot about it. So this year I kept the receipts, kept the bags they came in and all that stuff just in case. And they didn't take. So that's 3 of their grapevines that didn't take. And I want to contact Vigoro and see if they're going to make good on them. So I was going to go straight to Vigoro. I checked online at www.vigoro.com and I found a phone number for customer service, and it says they're open 24/7 for customer service. They want to make sure customer satisfaction is guaranteed. All right, so the phone number they gave me, write this down, is area code 847-739-1200. Again, 847-739-1200. Now, every time I dial that number, it goes to my cell phone carrier recording and it says, we cannot complete your call as dialed. And yes, I did try putting a 1 before the area code. Didn't make any difference. Came back saying the same exact thing. So if some of you out there would give that number a call and see if you can get through to it, I'd appreciate that, and let me know, like I said, down below. All right, I got to get my key out here. And it takes 2 hands. Get that open. We'll set that up there for now. Okay, so this is the bilge pump that I purchased. I bought it on eBay. Okay, and there's the numbers on it. And I make up these little T's by cutting with a saw. I cut a couple of slots in them so they'll clamp down around that. And the reason for the T is because without it, this thing will jet across. While it's hanging on a wire inside of the big tank up here, it'll jet across and slam into a wall, and then turn and jet across and slam into a wall, and it'll tie the wire up in knots. So I discovered that if I make a little T unit like this on there, it shoots water out both sides and it stays pretty much stabilized in the tank. It might move around a little bit like this, but other than that, it just hangs in there pretty steady. So I'll be wiring this in. Now up inside of here, I put in my little PMA controller, and my battery's at 13.3 right now. There's the little Harbor Freight solar battery, 35 amp hours. And those things work just fine for me for little things like this. I'm going to be hooking up this thing. This is a DC, 12 volt DC timer. And you can set up to a weekly settings on this, just like you would for sprinklers or something like that. And it has a manual button right there that you can just hit to turn it on in between if you want. But what I want to do is set this thing up so it just runs a few minutes each hour during the day. So not too much wear and tear on the pump. So the wires up here, I've got them connected from the solar panel coming down and going into my controller. But those wires there are the ones that go into the tank. And those are just some scrap wires I had laying around. So what I'm going to do is I came up with this idea last night while I was sitting around thinking. And I'm going to go into Home Depot and I'm going to buy a 25-foot roll of Malibu lighting DC 14 gauge burial wire. It's what you put those Malibu lights out in your landscaping with, and you bury it under the ground, and you can put waterproof wire nuts on there so that it doesn't short out when the ground is soaking wet from your sprinklers or from the rain or anything like that. So that's what I'm going to use for my connections going into the tank. And I'll be coming straight from the load section here on my controller and going straight up into the tank and then down. And I'll have these 2 wires connected with the waterproof connectors, and then I'm going to actually do a secondary coating on them. I bought some marine epoxy, and I'm going to coat those with marine epoxy and let it dry completely, so I have no water getting in and shorting out my connections. And see if I can make the pump last a little bit longer than they have been. Okay, now this is a bigger pump than I normally used. The other ones I used were a smaller outlet. They were a 3/4 inch outlet. This is a 1 inch outlet. And this is 2,500 gallons per hour. And it will move the water around in this tank. This tank is a 2,500 gallon tank. And if it's totally full, that thing in 1 hour's time of running will completely circulate all of the water in my tank. So I was asked if that's really necessary. Well, I wouldn't say it's in the books as necessary. Excuse me while I put this lock on. You'll have to stare at my hand. It's just a good thing to do because water will stagnate. And 2,500 gallons in there, I can't use that up fast enough before it'll stagnate. If you treat your water and you add a little bit of pool chlorine to your water to help kill bacteria and things like that that might be in the water, which I do, and the rating for that for a 2,500 gallon tank is 1 quart of pool chlorine. So you can put 1 quart of chlorine in there just before you get your tank filled up and topped off, and that'll mix into the water. But chlorine does you no good in still water. It'll settle out. It will not completely keep mixing with the water. So it's not going to do you any good unless your water is moving. So that's the second reason why I like having that pump inside of there. So I would say yes, it probably is a necessity. You can make up your own decisions on that if you want. I just found that sitting down thinking about my water, which is very important no matter where you are, but especially in the desert, water is very important. I don't want bacteria, junk growing in my water. I want it to be moving around inside there, so that's why I do this with the pump. All right. Another thing is I did rename some of my playlists because I noticed that all of them started with homesteading the desert, and the amount of space that you have on a cell phone or smartphone screen would not show the whole title. So everything said homesteading, homesteading, homesteading. You really didn't know what you're looking at. So I put the homesteading the desert part at the back end, and then I put like wind and solar in the front of the title. So the titles now are easier for you to sift through and find older videos on topics that you might be interested in. All right, so that's about all I have. The only other thing was found out something today. Talking to my neighbor, and there was a reason that we had to check driver's licenses and IDs and things like that. So anyway, he looked at his, and on his, in the top right corner, it said, "Federal restrictions apply." And I had heard that before, and I was like, what in the heck is that all about? So anyway, his does say that, mine doesn't, his wife's doesn't. And no, we don't have the new IDs or anything like that, but I've never seen that on any of my driver's licenses. I wonder what that's all about. Anybody got a clue? All right, that's about it. This is G Bear signing off.